Jake stood in front of the bathroom mirror at the convention center, checking his alien costume one more time. He had been working on this outfit for 3 months straight. Every night after his job at the computer repair shop, he would come home and work on the silver fabric, the glowing chest piece, and the intricate mask that covered half his face. Today was the day he had been waiting for all year. Comic-Con was finally here, and this time, he was going to win that costume contest. Last year, he came in 3rd place with his robot costume. This year, with his alien warrior design, he was confident he could take 1st place. The convention center was packed with people. Everywhere Jake looked, he saw incredible costumes. There were superheroes flying around with capes, robots that actually moved and made sounds, and princesses with dresses that seemed to sparkle like real magic. The energy in the air was electric. People were laughing, taking pictures, and showing off their amazing creations. Jake walked through the main hall, trying not to bump into anyone. His costume was pretty wide with the shoulder pieces, and he had to be careful not to knock over any displays. The vendors were calling out to people trying to sell comic books, action figures, and movie posters. The smell of pizza and popcorn filled the air from the food court nearby. As he made his way toward the costume contest registration table, something caught his eye. Across the crowded room, near a booth selling vintage science fiction items, stood the most amazing alien princess he had ever seen. Her costume was absolutely incredible. She had silver blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the bright convention lights, and her hair was styled in an elaborate way with what looked like tiny stars woven through it. Her dress was flowing and seemed to change colors as she moved, going from deep purple to bright blue to silver. On her head was a crown that looked like it was made from actual crystals, though Jake knew it had to be costume jewelry. What really caught his attention, though, was how comfortable she looked in her costume. While many people seemed a bit awkward or self-conscious, she moved like she was born to be an alien princess. Jake found himself staring, which he knew was rude, but he couldn't help it. The costume was so detailed and professional-looking. He wondered if she worked in movies or television. Most people at the convention were hobbyists like himself, but every now and then, real professionals would show up with costumes that made everyone else look like beginners. He was so busy looking at her costume that he didn't realize she had noticed him staring. When their eyes met across the crowded room, Jake felt his heart start beating faster. She didn't look annoyed or uncomfortable. Instead, she gave him a small smile and a little wave. Jake waved back, probably a bit too enthusiastically, and immediately felt his face turn red under his mask. Not wanting to seem like a creep, Jake quickly looked away and continued walking toward the registration table. But he kept glancing back in her direction, hoping to get another look at that amazing costume. He registered for the contest and got his number, but his mind kept wandering back to the alien princess. About an hour later, Jake found himself in line at the same vintage Sci-Fi booth where he had first spotted her. He wasn't really looking to buy anything specific, but the booth had some cool old movie posters, and he thought he might find something interesting. Plus, if he was being honest with himself, he was hoping he might run into the alien princess again. As luck would have it, she appeared in line right behind him. Up close, her costume was even more impressive. The makeup work was professional level, with intricate details around her eyes and cheekbones that made her look truly otherworldly. Jake could see tiny gems glued to her skin that caught the light perfectly. He wanted to say something to compliment her costume, but he was nervous. What if she thought he was just another guy trying to hit on her? What if she was tired of people commenting on her outfit? Jake had been to enough conventions to know that people in elaborate costumes sometimes got annoyed by constant attention. But then he remembered something his friend had told him once. The worst thing that can happen is she says no or ignores you, but if you don't try, you'll definitely get nothing. Jake took a deep breath, turned around with his most confident smile, and decided to go for it. "Hey, sweetie," he said, trying to sound casual and friendly. It was something he had heard in an old sci-fi movie, and it seemed like the kind of thing one alien might say to another. To his complete surprise and delight, instead of looking annoyed or rolling her eyes, the alien princess actually blushed. Even under all that silver-blue makeup, he could see her cheeks turn a darker color. She looked down for a second, then looked back up at him with a smile. "Yes, darling," she replied, staying perfectly in character with a voice that sounded like it could belong to royalty from another planet. The moment hung in the air for just a second, and then both of them realized how ridiculous the whole exchange was. Here they were, two adults dressed as aliens, talking to each other like they were in some cheesy space movie. The absurdity of it all hit them at exactly the same time. They both burst out laughing. Not just polite chuckles, but real, genuine laughter that made other people in line turn to look at them. Jake was laughing so hard that his alien mask started to slip, and he had to hold it in place. The alien princess was laughing so hard that she had to wipe tears from her eyes, being careful not to mess up her makeup. "I'm sorry," Jake said, still chuckling. "That was probably the cheesiest pickup line in the history of pickup lines." No, it was perfect," she replied, her normal voice much warmer and more down-to-earth than her alien princess voice. "I've been in character all day, and that was the first time someone played along so naturally." They introduced themselves properly. Her real name was Luna, and she was a makeup artist who worked on movies and TV shows. She had created this entire costume herself as a way to showcase her skills and have some fun at the convention. Jake told her about his computer repair job and his hobby of making costumes. The line moved forward, but they kept talking. Luna was fascinated by how Jake had created the electronic components in his costume, and Jake was amazed by the level of detail in Luna's makeup and costume design. They discovered they both loved the same old sci-fi movies and had strong opinions about which alien designs were the best. By the time they reached the front of the line, they had been talking for 20 minutes and had completely forgotten about looking at vintage posters. The booth owner, an older man with a gray beard, smiled at them knowingly. "You two make a great alien couple," he said with a wink. "Maybe you should enter the couple's costume contest together next year." Jake and Luna looked at each other and started laughing again. They hadn't known each other for even an hour, but somehow it felt like they had been friends for years. There was something about the shared silliness of the moment, the mutual appreciation for each other's craftsmanship, and the easy way they had fallen into conversation that made everything feel natural and comfortable. They spent the rest of the day exploring the convention together. Luna showed Jake some of the professional makeup booths and explained different techniques to him. Jake introduced Luna to some of the electronic vendors and showed her how to incorporate lights and sound effects into costumes. They took pictures together, tried on silly hats at various booths, and shared a giant pretzel from the food court. As the day wound down, they both realized they didn't want it to end. The convention would continue for 2 more days, and they made plans to meet up again tomorrow. Jake walked Luna to her car, still in their alien costumes, getting smiles and waves from other convention-goers. "Thanks for the best day I've had in a long time," Luna said as she unlocked her car. "Thank you for not thinking I was a complete weirdo when I called you sweetie," Jake replied. Luna grinned. "Well, the day is still young. I might change my mind about the weirdo part." They both laughed one more time, and Jake watched as Luna drove away, already looking forward to seeing her again tomorrow. The next morning, Jake woke up with a huge smile on his face. He grabbed his phone from the nightstand and saw a text message from Luna. She had sent him a picture of herself without all the alien makeup, just her natural face with a big grin. "This is what your alien princess looks like in real life," the message said. Jake stared at the photo for a long moment. Luna was even more beautiful without the costume. She had warm brown eyes, freckles across her nose, and curly hair that she had kept hidden under that elaborate alien headpiece. He quickly typed back, "Still looks like royalty to me." They spent the second day of the convention together, this time wearing simpler costumes so they could move around more easily. Luna wore a basic spacesuit design, and Jake had put together a casual alien traveler look. Without the heavy makeup and complicated outfits, they could focus more on just enjoying each other's company. They discovered they had so much in common. Both of them loved old science fiction movies from the 1980s. Both of them preferred practical effects over computer graphics. They both collected vintage comic books, though Luna focused on the artwork while Jake was more interested in the stories. They even had the same favorite pizza toppings, which they discovered when they shared a slice at the food court. On the third and final day of the convention, they didn't wear costumes at all. Instead, they walked around in regular clothes, just being themselves. Jake felt a little nervous at first. What if Luna didn't like the real him as much as she liked his alien character? But his worries disappeared quickly when Luna linked her arm through his as they walked through the vendor halls. "I have a confession," Luna said as they sat on a bench outside the convention center. "I was actually pretty nervous about coming to this convention alone. I've been working so much lately that I don't have many friends anymore. When you made me laugh on that first day, it felt like finding a treasure." Jake felt his heart warm up. "I was nervous too. I've been coming to these conventions for years, but I usually just walk around by myself and look at stuff. I never expected to meet someone like you." After the convention ended, they exchanged phone numbers and promised to stay in touch. Jake lived about 30 minutes away from Luna, which seemed perfect. Close enough to see each other regularly, but far enough that they wouldn't feel like they were rushing into anything. Their first real date happened a week later. Jake had been thinking about where to take Luna, and he remembered her mentioning that she loved looking at stars. He found out there was a planetarium about an hour drive from both of their homes, and they had shows every Friday night. Luna met him in the parking lot wearing a simple blue dress and sneakers. She looked nervous and excited at the same time. Jake had changed his shirt 3 times before leaving his apartment, wanting to make a good impression. The planetarium show was about the possibility of life on other planets. As they sat in the dark dome, looking up at the artificial stars, Jake felt Luna's hand slip into his. The narrator was talking about distant galaxies and the billions of stars that might have planets with life, and Jake couldn't help but think about how lucky he was to have found Luna in a crowded convention center on Earth. After the show, they went to a nearby diner that was open late. Over coffee and pie, Luna told Jake more about her work. She had studied art in college and then learned makeup and special effects through online courses and workshops. Her dream was to work on big science fiction movies, creating aliens and monsters that would amaze audiences. Jake told her about his job fixing computers and his secret dream of working for a space company someday. He had always been fascinated by the idea of humans traveling to other planets, and he spent his free time reading about new space technologies and missions to Mars. "You know what's funny?" Luna said, stirring sugar into her coffee. "I spend all day making people look like aliens, and you spend all your time dreaming about reaching the stars. Maybe we're both just looking for something beyond this ordinary world." Jake nodded. "Maybe that's why we found each other. 2 people who believe there's magic out there somewhere." As the weeks went by, they fell into a comfortable routine. Jake would text Luna good morning every day, and she would send him pictures of the makeup work she was doing. Sometimes it was a zombie, sometimes a vampire, sometimes an alien creature that looked nothing like any alien Jake had ever imagined. Luna would call Jake in the evenings when she got home from work, and they would talk for hours about everything and nothing. She told him about the actors she worked with, some who were nice and some who were difficult. Jake told her about the funny computer problems people brought to his shop, like the man who thought his computer was broken because he couldn't find the any key that the screen told him to press. On weekends, they would meet somewhere in between their 2 towns and spend the day together. Sometimes they would go to movies, especially science fiction films where Luna would point out the good and bad makeup work. Sometimes they would visit museums or art galleries. Luna opened Jake's eyes to a whole world of creativity he had never paid attention to before. Jake introduced Luna to his hobby of building electronics. He showed her how to solder wires and create simple circuits. Luna was fascinated by how Jake could make lights blink in patterns or create sound effects with just a few small components. She started incorporating some of Jake's electronic tricks into her costume designs. Luna invited Jake to her apartment, which was like stepping into an artist's studio. Every room had something creative in it. Her living room had mannequin heads wearing different makeup designs. Her kitchen table was covered with brushes and paints. Her bedroom had sketches of alien faces taped to the walls. "This is my real world," Luna said, looking a little worried about what Jake would think. "I know it's messy and weird, but this is where I create everything." Jake walked around slowly, looking at all of Luna's work. He was amazed by her talent and creativity. "This isn't weird," he said finally. "This is incredible. You're like a magician who creates new life forms." That night, as Jake drove home, he realized he was falling in love, not just with Luna's talent or her beautiful smile, but with the way she saw the world. She looked for magic and wonder in everything, and being around her made Jake feel like he could be part of that magic too. Luna was having the same realization. Jake was unlike anyone she had ever met. He was steady and reliable, but he also had big dreams and wasn't afraid to work toward them. He supported her art without trying to change her or make her more normal. He made her feel like being herself was not just okay, but wonderful. 3 months after they met, they had their first "Hey, sweetie" moment outside of the convention. They were at a grocery store shopping for ingredients to make dinner together. Jake was comparing prices on pasta sauce when Luna snuck up behind him. "Hey, sweetie," she whispered in his ear, trying to sound like her alien princess character. Jake spun around with a huge grin. "Yes, darling," he replied in his alien voice. They both started laughing right there in the pasta aisle, getting strange looks from other shoppers. But they didn't care. They had found something special together, something that started with pretending to be aliens, but had grown into something real and beautiful. That night, as they cooked dinner together in Luna's kitchen, Jake realized that he had found his home, not just a place, but a person who made everywhere feel like home. 6 months into their relationship, Jake and Luna hit their first real bump in the road. Luna got a call for a big movie job that would take her to another state for 3 weeks. It was the kind of opportunity she had been dreaming about since she started her career. The movie was a major science fiction film with a huge budget, and they wanted her to design and create makeup for the main alien characters. Jake was genuinely excited for Luna when she told him the news. He knew how much this meant to her career. But as the departure date got closer, he started feeling anxious about being apart for so long. They had been spending almost every weekend together, and 3 weeks felt like forever. "I'm going to miss you so much," Luna said the night before she left. They were sitting on Jake's couch and she was leaning against his shoulder. "But this could really change everything for me. If they like my work, I might get called for more big movies." Jake nodded and squeezed her hand. "I'm proud of you. This is your dream coming true. I just wish I could come with you." "I wish you could too," Luna said softly. "But you have your job here and I'll be working 16-hour days. Anyway, I probably won't be very good company." The first week apart was harder than either of them expected. Luna was indeed working long hours, often starting at 5 in the morning and not finishing until late at night. When she did have time to call Jake, she was exhausted and could barely keep her eyes open. Jake tried to be understanding, but he found himself feeling lonely and a little forgotten. Jake's co-workers at the computer repair shop started noticing his mood. His friend Danny, who worked at the desk next to him, finally asked what was wrong. "Luna's working on this big movie," Jake explained while fixing a laptop screen. "I'm happy for her, but I feel like I barely exist in her world right now." Danny, who had been married for 10 years, gave Jake a knowing look. "That's the thing about dating someone with a creative job. Sometimes their work takes over everything. My wife's a teacher, and during exam season, I might as well be invisible. Meanwhile, Luna was dealing with her own challenges on the movie set. The other makeup artists were all professionals who had worked on multiple big films. They had their own tight-knit group, and Luna felt like an outsider trying to prove herself. The head makeup artist, a woman named Patricia who had worked in Hollywood for 20 years, seemed to question every decision Luna made. "This alien design looks too friendly," Patricia said, looking at Luna's work on one of the actors. "The director wants them to look more threatening. Can you make the eyes smaller and add more scars?" Luna nodded and got back to work, but inside, she felt frustrated. She had spent hours perfecting that design, and now she had to start over. She wanted to call Jake and talk about it, but by the time she got back to her hotel room, it was past midnight and she knew he would be asleep. The second week was even tougher. Jake's family was having their monthly dinner, and his mom kept asking where Luna was. When Jake explained that she was working on a movie, his dad made a comment that stuck with him. "That's a pretty unstable career, isn't it?" his dad said while passing the mashed potatoes. "Never knowing where your next job is coming from must be hard to plan a future with someone like that." Jake defended Luna immediately, but his dad's words planted a seed of doubt. What if Luna's career meant she would always be traveling? What if they could never have a normal relationship where they saw each other regularly? Luna was having similar doubts on her end. The other makeup artists talked constantly about their relationships, and most of them had stories about breakups caused by the demands of their job. One woman, Carol, had been divorced twice because her husband couldn't handle her travel schedule. "The smart ones find someone in the industry," Carol told Luna during a lunch break. "Someone who understands the crazy hours and the travel. Regular people just don't get it." Luna thought about Jake fixing computers in his quiet shop while she was surrounded by movie stars and special effects. For the first time, she wondered if they were too different to make it work long-term. The breaking point came during the third week. Luna had been working on a particularly complicated alien makeup that required her to stay on set until 2 in the morning. She was exhausted and stressed because Patricia had criticized her work in front of the director that day. All she wanted was to hear Jake's voice and feel connected to something stable and loving. But when she called Jake, he was at his company's quarterly meeting dinner. She could hear laughter and music in the background, and Jake sounded distracted. "Can I call you back later?" Jake asked. "We're about to do the award presentations, and my boss is giving a speech." "It's okay," Luna said, trying not to sound hurt. "I know you're busy." After they hung up, Luna sat in her hotel room and cried. For the first time since they met, she felt completely alone. Jake had his normal life with his coworkers and family. Dinners, while she was stuck in a strange city, working with people who made her feel like she didn't belong anywhere. Jake called back an hour later, but Luna was already asleep. When he got her voicemail, he realized something was wrong. Her message was short and sad, nothing like her usual cheerful voice. The next morning, they finally had a real conversation, but it didn't go well. Luna was tired and emotional, and Jake was feeling defensive about his dad's comments and his own insecurities. "Maybe your dad is right," Luna said, her voice shaky over the phone. "Maybe this lifestyle is too crazy for a normal relationship." "What's that supposed to mean?" Jake asked, hurt by the word normal. "I mean, maybe you need someone who can be there for your family dinners and company parties. Someone who doesn't disappear for weeks at a time chasing dreams." Jake felt a flash of anger. "So now I'm too boring for you? Just because I have a regular job doesn't mean I don't understand your dreams." "That's not what I meant," Luna said, but they were both too upset to communicate clearly. They hung up without resolving anything, and for the first time since they met, they went a whole day without talking to each other. Luna threw herself into her work, staying on set even longer hours. The other makeup artists noticed her dedication, and slowly they started accepting her more. Patricia even complimented her work on a difficult character design, but Luna's success felt hollow without Jake to share it with. Jake spent the day fixing computers with more force than necessary, taking his frustration out on stubborn screws and tangled cables. Danny tried to cheer him up by suggesting they go out for drinks after work, but Jake just wanted to go home and figure out how to fix things with Luna. That evening, Jake sat in his apartment looking at a photo from the convention where they first met. They both looked so happy in their alien costumes, laughing at their silly "Hey, sweetie" joke. He realized that somewhere along the way, they had both started worrying more about fitting into each other's worlds instead of creating their own world together. He picked up his phone and typed a long text message to Luna. He told her that he was sorry for making her feel like she had to choose between her dreams and their relationship. He told her that her creativity and ambition were part of what made him fall in love with her. He told her that he didn't want her to be normal, because normal would mean she wasn't Luna. Luna read the message while sitting in the makeup trailer at 5 in the morning, getting ready for another long day. She started crying again, but this time they were good tears. She realized that Jake wasn't trying to change her or make her smaller. He was just scared of losing her, the same way she was scared of losing him. She called him right away, even though it was 2 in the morning his time. "Hey, sweetie," she said when he answered, her voice soft and full of love. "Yes, darling," he replied, and they both started laughing through their tears. They talked for an hour, being honest about their fears and insecurities. They realized that every relationship has challenges, and theirs was worth fighting for. They made plans for Jake to visit her on set the next weekend, and Luna promised to make more time for their daily calls. When Luna came home from the movie job, she had a new confidence in herself and in their relationship. They had survived their first real test, and it had made them stronger. After Luna came back from her movie job, things between her and Jake felt different in the best possible way. Their fight had been scary, but it had also shown them both how much they truly cared about each other. They weren't just playing around anymore. This was real love, and they both wanted to make it work. Jake decided to make some changes in his approach to their relationship. Instead of worrying about Luna's unpredictable schedule, he started learning more about her world. He asked questions about her work that went beyond just, "How was your day?" He wanted to understand the technical side of what she did, the artistic challenges she faced, and the people she worked with. Luna was amazed by Jake's genuine interest. One evening, she was working on a practice design at her kitchen table, trying to perfect a new technique for creating realistic alien skin texture. Jake was sitting across from her, supposedly reading a book about space exploration, but he kept glancing up to watch her work. "Want to try?" Luna asked, holding up a makeup brush. Jake looked surprised. "Me? I'll probably mess it up." "You can't mess up practice," Luna said with a smile. "Besides, you're good with details. You might be a natural at this." Jake put down his book and moved his chair closer to Luna's. She guided his hand as he learned to blend colors and create shadows. To both of their surprise, Jake had steady hands and a good eye for the work. He wasn't ready to work on a movie set, but he could definitely help Luna with her practice sessions. "This is actually really relaxing," Jake said, as he carefully painted scales onto a practice piece. "It's like meditation, but you create something beautiful at the end." Luna watched Jake concentrate on his work, his tongue sticking out slightly, the way it did when he was focused. She felt a warm feeling spread through her chest. Here was this wonderful man who fixed computers for a living, spending his evening learning about makeup artistry just because it mattered to her. Jake started, coming over more often to help Luna with her projects. He couldn't do the advanced work, but he could help organize supplies, mix colors, and even model for some of her practice designs. Luna discovered that Jake's face was perfect for testing alien makeup because his features were strong and symmetrical. One Saturday, Luna was working on a zombie design for a local theater production. She needed to make Jake look like he had been dead for about a week, which required layers of different colored makeup and some fake blood. As she worked, they talked about everything and nothing, the way couples do when they're completely comfortable with each other. "Hold still," Luna said, adding some green shading around Jake's eyes. "I'm trying to make you look properly deceased." "How romantic," Jake said, trying not to move his mouth too much while she worked near his lips. When Luna finished, she handed Jake a mirror. He looked at himself and started laughing. The makeup was incredibly realistic, but there was something funny about seeing his own face looking like a zombie. "I look like I should be in a horror movie," Jake said, making zombie faces in the mirror. "A very handsome zombie," Luna said, taking pictures with her phone. "This is definitely going in my portfolio." They were both laughing when Jake's phone rang. It was his mom, calling to ask if he wanted to come to Sunday dinner the next day. Without thinking, Jake answered with his zombie face still in full view of his phone's camera. "Hi, Mom," Jake said casually. His mom screamed and almost dropped her phone. "Jake, what happened to your face? Are you hurt?" It took several minutes to explain that it was just makeup and that Luna was practicing her skills on him. Jake's mom had never fully understood what Luna did for work, but seeing the realistic makeup helped her realize that Luna was a real artist with serious talent. "That's incredible," his mom said once she got over the shock. "Luna made you look like that. She's very talented. You should bring her to dinner tomorrow so I can meet the person who scared me half to death." The next day, Luna was nervous about meeting Jake's parents. She had chosen her most conservative outfit and kept her makeup simple and natural. She wanted to make a good impression, especially after the zombie phone call incident. Jake's family lived in a comfortable suburban house with a big backyard and family photos covering every surface. His parents were warm and welcoming, but Luna could tell they were trying to figure out what to make of her. During dinner, Jake's mom asked Luna about her work. Instead of just explaining it, Luna offered to show them some of her portfolio on her phone. She had pictures of all kinds of makeup work, from beautiful fantasy designs to realistic injury effects for medical training videos. "This is amazing," Jake's dad said, looking at a picture of Luna's alien princess costume from the convention. "This must take hours to do." "The alien princess took about 4 hours," Luna said. "But some of the more complicated designs can take 8 or 10 hours. Jake's little nephew, who was about 8 years old, had been listening quietly to the conversation. Suddenly, he spoke up. "Could you make me look like a dinosaur?" Luna's face lit up. "What kind of dinosaur?" For the next hour, Luna transformed Jake's nephew into a convincing T-Rex using supplies she always kept in her car for emergencies. The whole family gathered around to watch her work, asking questions and marveling at the transformation. By the end of the evening, Jake's family had completely changed their opinion of Luna. They realized she wasn't just someone with a weird job, but a skilled artist who brought joy and wonder to people's lives. Jake's mom even asked if Luna could do special makeup for the nephew's upcoming birthday party. Meanwhile, Luna was working on getting her friends to accept Jake. Her circle of artist friends was used to dating other creative people, actors, musicians, and writers. They weren't sure what to make of Jake's quiet, steady personality at first. The breakthrough came when Luna brought Jake to a party at her friend Casey's art studio. Casey was a sculptor who worked with metal, and she had been having trouble with the electrical system for a light installation she was creating. When Jake heard about the problem, he offered to take a look. "I'm not an electrician," Jake said, examining Casey's tangled wires, "but I work with electronics every day. Maybe I can figure out what's wrong." Within an hour, Jake had not only fixed Casey's lighting problem, but had also shown her how to create a simple timing system that would make the lights change colors in sequence. Casey was thrilled with the result, and word spread quickly through Luna's friend group that Jake was not only nice but also incredibly helpful. Soon, Luna's friends were calling Jake whenever they had technical problems. He helped a photographer fix her camera equipment, showed a filmmaker how to repair his laptop, and even helped a musician set up a small recording studio in his apartment. Jake found that he enjoyed solving these creative technical challenges, and Luna's friends appreciated having someone reliable they could count on. Jake and Luna started hosting regular game nights at Luna's apartment, mixing Jake's computer repair shop friends with Luna's artist friends. At first, the two groups seemed like they came from different planets, but they quickly found common ground in their shared affection for Jake and Luna. Danny from the computer shop became friends with Casey the sculptor when they discovered they both loved old science fiction movies. Luna's friend Tyler, who was a costume designer for local theaters, started collaborating with Jake on creating costumes with electronic components. The most important change was that Jake and Luna learned how to support each other's dreams while building their own life together. When Luna got offered another movie job, this time only 2 states away for just 1 week, Jake was genuinely excited for her. "This is great," Jake said when Luna told him about the job. "And it's only a week this time. I can handle a week." "Are you sure?" Luna asked, still worried about leaving him. "I'm sure," Jake said, pulling her into a hug. "Besides, I have that electronics project to work on for Tyler's theater group. I'll be busy too." They had learned that being apart didn't threaten their relationship. It just made them appreciate their time together even more. Luna also started making an effort to be part of Jake's world. She began attending his company's social events and even helped organize a costume party for Halloween that became legendary at Jake's workplace. She taught several of Jake's co-workers how to do basic makeup effects, and they all had a great time creating silly monster faces. One evening, 6 months after their big fight, Jake and Luna were working together in her apartment. Luna was practicing a new alien design, and Jake was helping by organizing her brushes and mixing colors. They had music playing softly in the background, and everything felt peaceful and right. "Hey, sweetie," Luna said softly, not looking up. "From her work." "Yes, darling," Jake replied automatically, handing her the brush she was reaching for. They both paused and looked at each other, realizing what they had just done. Their special phrase had become so natural that they used it without even thinking about it. They smiled at each other, remembering that first silly moment at the convention that had started everything. That night, as they lay in bed talking about their plans for the weekend, Jake realized that they had found their balance. They didn't need to live in each other's worlds. They had created their own world together, one that had room for both computer repair and alien makeup for family, dinners and artist parties for steady routines and creative. 2 years had passed since Jake and Luna first met at the convention, and their love had grown stronger with each passing day. Jake had been thinking about proposing for months, but he wanted to do something special, something that would honor how they met and celebrate everything they had built together. The idea came to him while he was helping Luna organize her costume collection. She had created so many amazing designs over the years, but she kept talking about how she wanted to make one more alien princess costume, something even better than the original one that had brought them together. "I want to make it perfect this time," Luna said, holding up her old costume. "I've learned so much since I made this one. I could add fiber optic lights, maybe some holographic fabric, even some moving parts." Jake's heart started beating faster as an idea formed in his mind. "What if you made that costume for next year's convention? We could both dress up as aliens again, like old times." Luna's eyes lit up. "That would be amazing. We could coordinate our costumes this time, make them look like they belong in the same alien world." What Luna didn't know was that Jake had already started planning the most elaborate proposal in convention history. He secretly reached out to Casey, Tyler, and several of Luna's other artist friends. He explained his idea and asked for their help in making it happen. The plan was complicated. Jake needed Luna to create the most spectacular alien princess costume she had ever made, but he also needed to coordinate with the convention organizers, Luna's friends, and even some of the professional costume contest judges. It took months of secret planning, hidden phone calls, and careful coordination. Casey helped Jake design and build a special ring box that looked like a miniature spaceship. Tyler created an elaborate alien prince costume for Jake that would complement Luna's princess design perfectly. Other friends helped with lighting effects, sound equipment, and even choreography for the big moment. Jake's biggest challenge was keeping the secret from Luna. She was naturally curious about everything, and she kept asking why Jake was being so mysterious about his costume plans. He had to come up with creative excuses for his secret meetings and late-night phone calls. "I just want my costume to be a surprise this time," Jake would say whenever Luna asked what he was working on. "You surprised me with how amazing you looked that first day. Now it's my turn." Luna was touched by Jake's enthusiasm and decided to pour all of her skills into creating the most incredible alien princess costume ever made. She spent weeks designing every detail, from the intricate headpiece to the flowing cape that would change colors as she moved. The costume included fiber optic threads woven throughout the fabric that would create patterns of light across her dress. She designed special contact lenses that made her eyes look like they contained tiny galaxies. The makeup took her 12 hours to perfect, with layers of shimmer and glow that made her skin look like it was made of starlight. Meanwhile, Jake was working with the convention organizers to set up his surprise. They agreed to call Luna onto the main stage during the costume contest, supposedly to present an award for Most Creative Design Process, since Luna had documented her costume creation on social media. The morning of the convention arrived, and Jake was more nervous than he had ever been in his life. He had practiced his speech 100 times, but his hands were still shaking as he got ready in his hotel room. His alien prince costume was incredible, thanks to Tyler's expertise and the collaborative effort of Luna's entire friend group. Luna met Jake in the hotel lobby, and when she saw him in his full costume, she gasped. He looked like he had stepped out of a science fiction movie. His costume perfectly complemented hers, and together they looked like they ruled an entire galaxy. "Jake, you look amazing," Luna said, reaching out to touch the intricate details on his costume. "We look like we belong together." "We do belong together," Jake said, his voice slightly muffled by his costume mask. "In this world and any other world." They spent the morning walking around the convention together, taking pictures and admiring other costumes. Everyone who saw them stopped to stare and ask for photos. Convention photographers kept pulling them, aside for professional shots. Luna was glowing with happiness, and Jake was trying to control his nerves about what was coming. The costume contest was scheduled for 2 o'clock on the main stage. Jake had arranged for all of their friends to be in the audience, though Luna didn't know they were there. As the contest began, Jake and Luna stood backstage with the other contestants, waiting for their turn. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer said over the loudspeaker, "before we begin judging our costume contest, we have a special presentation to make. We'd like to call Luna Rodriguez to the stage to receive our first ever award for Most Creative Design Process." Luna looked confused. "I didn't know there was an award for that," she said to Jake. "Go on," Jake encouraged her, his heart pounding. "You deserve it. Your costume creation videos were amazing." Luna walked onto the stage alone, waving to the crowd. The spotlight was bright, and she had to shield her eyes to see the audience. She could hear cheering, but she couldn't see much beyond the first few rows. "Luna," the announcer continued, "your documentation of the costume creation process has inspired thousands of people to try making their own costumes. But we have a surprise for you. There's someone here who wants to say something." The lights dimmed slightly, and Jake walked onto the stage. But instead of going to the podium, he walked directly to Luna. The crowd started to murmur as they realized something special was happening. Jake stopped in front of Luna and slowly removed his alien mask, revealing his nervous but smiling face. Underneath, Luna's eyes went wide as she realized this wasn't part of any official ceremony. "Hey, sweetie," Jake said, his voice carrying clearly through the wireless microphone the organizers had secretly given him. Luna's hand flew to her mouth as she started to understand what was happening. "Jake, what are you doing?" Instead of answering with words, Jake reached into his costume and pulled out the spaceship ring box that Casey had made. The crowd collectively gasped as Jake dropped to one knee on the convention stage. "Luna," Jake said, his voice shaking slightly but full of love. "2 years ago I met an alien princess at this exact convention. She was the most beautiful, creative, amazing person I had ever seen. When I said, 'Hey, sweetie,' to her, I had no idea I was talking to the person I would want to spend the rest of my life with." Luna started crying behind her alien makeup, tears of joy streaming down her face. The crowd had gone completely silent, hanging on every word. "You've made my life magical," Jake continued. "You've shown me that there's wonder and beauty in everything, and you've made me believe that dreams really can come true. I love your art, I love your imagination, and I love the way you see the world. But most of all, I love you, exactly as you are." Jake opened the spaceship ring box, revealing a ring that seemed to contain actual stardust. The lighting effects made it sparkle like a tiny galaxy. "Luna Rodriguez, my alien princess, my best friend, my everything. Will you marry me?" For a moment, Luna was speechless. She looked out at the crowd, then back at Jake kneeling in front of her in his elaborate alien costume. This was the most perfectly ridiculous, wonderfully romantic thing anyone had ever done for her. "Yes, darling," she finally said, her voice barely a whisper at first, then louder so everyone could hear. "Yes, darling, yes!" The crowd erupted in cheers as Jake stood up and slipped the ring onto Luna's finger. They embraced on stage, both of them crying and laughing at the same time. The convention photographer was snapping pictures rapidly, capturing every moment of their joy. As they kissed on stage, still in their full alien costumes, the crowd started chanting, "Hey, sweetie, yes, darling." It became a rallying cry that echoed through the entire convention center. Later, Luna learned that Jake had coordinated with all of their friends to make the proposal happen. Casey, Tyler, Danny, and even Jake's parents were all in the audience, cheering and crying along with everyone else. The proposal video went viral online, with millions of people sharing the story of the couple who found love while dressed as aliens. Convention organizers asked them to come back every year as special guests, and their story became legendary in the convention community. But the most important part wasn't the fame or the attention. It was the look in Jake's eyes when he proposed, and the feeling Luna had that she had found her home in the most unexpected place. Their wedding 6 months later was a perfect blend of their two worlds. Luna wore a stunning white gown that incorporated subtle alien design elements, and Jake wore a classic tuxedo with small LED lights that twinkled like stars. The ceremony was held at the planetarium where they had their first date, under a dome showing the Milky Way galaxy. During their vows, they promised to always support each other's dreams, to never stop laughing together, and to remember that love is the greatest adventure of all. And yes, they included "Hey, sweetie" and "Yes, darling" in their official wedding vows, making everyone in attendance smile.